sweet-ass run it's been. Epic forces of darkness and light. What a world. Universe now.
Hey everyone, BilboCraft here, and welcome back to another ranking video. Today we're going to be ranking all 23 films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the Infinity Saga. So, as many of you guys knew, I grew up when the first Iron Man movie came out. I was 7 years old, guys, and I instantly fell in love with it. At the time, I was watching the Raimi series, I was watching the X-Men series, I was watching the Fantastic Four series, even Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. But the Marvel Cinematic Universe was born, in 2008 with the release of Iron Man 1. Now, we've come from Phase 1 to Phase 2, and we've ended with Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man 3, wrapping up the Infinity Saga in Phase 3. And since the coronavirus has hit the entire world, I've been fortunate enough to watch all 23 films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while I've just been, sitting here and waiting for the whole world to get cured by the vaccine. And so I've had a fortunate time watching all 23 films yet again. We're going to be ranking all 23 of them. And if you saw my DC ranking of all the DC movies, I did that from worst to best. In my opinion, I like all these movies for different reasons, but some of them are just not good, so I'm not going to rank them from worst to best, or from good or from bad to good. It's just going to be a straight ranking of all 23 films, and I ask guys that you guys always respect my opinions. Let me know what you guys think down below. I've seen some people in the last few ranking videos leave their rankings down below, so I appreciate that, guys. If you want to, of course, you can check out my rankings on my social media accounts like Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. But of course, if you want to leave your own rankings, you can leave them down in the description and down in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's get started with the ranking. Coming up at number 23 is the first Thor film. Now, I have no problems with the first Thor film. I like this film, okay? I love Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston's acting. I think they both really do it really, really well. I like the Shakespearean tone that they were given with the film. And I like that they were trying to find out the tone. The iconic scene in the diner where Thor slams the glass and he says, "Another!" That's a good mix. They were trying to find out what the tone was that they wanted to make all the Thor movies with. And I think this was a good start to it. The only thing that I have a problem with this movie is it has a lack of storytelling. I get what they were trying to do, where like you have Thor get banished from Asgard and he's sent to Earth to become worthy by his father Odin. And you have the iconic scene where he's fighting all the Shield agents and he's trying to lift Mjolnir for the first time, and then he has like a little rage moment. All that stuff is good. But the whole time where Loki is deceiving Asgard and going to Helmheim, and he's trying to manipulate both the Asgardians and the Frost Giants, doesn't really work for me. And I'm just finding that the whole scenes where he's talking to Jane Foster and Elvic Selvig, those scenes don't really work for me. They both, nothing against the actors, and they're all good, but the storytelling for me just didn't go anywhere. And nothing against Loki. Loki's one of the best Marvel villains, and he's one of the best characters that Marvel has introduced in their films. But he's just what you'll find that I have a common. All the Phase 1 movies have the same thing in common for me, and it's their villains. They all have kind of the same agenda. Oh, they're the same as the hero. They both have the same powers. They just have the same agenda: conquer the universe or conquer the world. This, that, and that. So no, I have nothing against Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I just have something against what they did with the Phase 1 movie. Coming up at number 22 is Iron Man 2. Now, this film, a lot of people say this is the weakest Iron Man in the entire trilogy. And I'm going to agree with them. It kind of is, but at the same time, it's not. I really do enjoy this film. It did what the first film did. It elevated the characters and elevated the action, and it did really well with the story. I like how it dove into Tony's past, with his father, and how he founded S.H.I.E.L.D. and how he was wrestling with his father, like whether he loved him or whether he didn't. And I really enjoyed all the action sequences, especially the race scene in Monaco, and especially that end final battle. Ooh, it was so good. Seeing Tony and Rhodey face up against those drones, it was really, really cool. And at first I had this as a pro for this movie. I like that they were setting up things for future other films, but Jon Favreau, he directed the first 2 Iron Man films, and he wanted to create a story because originally the second film was going to deal with the Demon in the Bottle storyline, but Marvel at the time was like, no, we need to get ready. We need to make this an Avengers film. We need to set up things for future other films, and that kind of hurts the film a little bit because you could tell where it's an Iron Man story, but at the same time it's trying to be an Avengers film, and we don't really need both of those elements. It just needs to be one of those. And the good thing about these other Marvel films, as we get into Phase 2 and Phase 3, the other solo films, or even the team-up films, they later set up the other films, but this movie just kind of crammed everything together. It didn't feel like it. Same thing with the something else you'll see in these other rankings is that some of the villains just don't have enough screen time. And nothing against the actor, man. He did a good job playing Ivan Vanko, also known as Whiplash. I thought he did a really good job, but he didn't have enough screen time for me. And all the scenes that he filmed were either cut or they were deleted, and I just feel like that's underused for the actor. And I thought he did a really good job at it, guys, but of course he didn't really have a lot of screen time, so that's why the second Iron Man film is on this ranking. Coming up at number 21 is Thor: The Dark World. Now, for most people say this is the weakest in the Thor trilogy. In my opinion, I really do like this film. I don't care what people say. I like that they made the mythology around Asgard a lot better. We got more screen time of Thor doing his thing, fighting with Mjolnir. All the scenes where Asgard were great. It was beautiful to see more of Asgard instead of just being on Earth the entire time for the film. The action sequences were really cool. Especially loved the second act where they're trying to escape Asgard and make their way through one of the portals to the Dark World. I like that it set the groundwork for other films like the Infinity Saga, and later it was setting up things for Thor Ragnarok, but they were also finding more of the tone. It was more comedic this time. The only thing that I really don't like, that I can agree with everyone, is that Malekith is not one of the best villains that Marvel has introduced. Is he the weakest? Yes. Is he really that bad? Not as people say. I really do like Malekith at some points, but all in all, I don't like his performance. I don't like his powers, and I really just don't really understand his plan, but at the same time, he's not the worst villain that Marvel's introduced. And I really, out of all the Infinity Stones, I don't really like the Ether. And that's because of how they introduced it in this film. It's kind of like an angry sludge, as Thor said in Endgame. But then when it shows up in Infinity War and Endgame, it's used a lot better. So that's the only problems I really have with the Dark World. I do love Tom Hiddleston returning as Loki. He was really good in it. I like seeing him and Thor work together. And I also like that Jane became an essential part of the story rather than just a love interest. But so yeah, I don't think Thor: The Dark World is the weakest in the Thor's trilogy, and I don't think it's the weakest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Coming up number 20 is Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, when I first saw this, it was on my birthday for my 14th birthday. And going in, I was very excited. I was very hyped up, and I really did enjoy this film. But as I grew up and I kept watching the film, I got a better understanding of why people said this is it's not the weakest film in the Avengers, and many people are going to be like, why is this number 20 on your list? I do like this movie. Don't hate on me. I really do like this movie, as I said. I like that it dives deeper into the relationships between all the other Avengers. And I'm not just talking about relationships like Bruce Banner and Natasha, not their chemistry, but also like building on Thor, Cap, and Tony, and all their relationship and how they all work together. All the relationship between Pietro and Wanda Maximoff and Nick Fury and Maria Hill. I liked all that they were keep building on the relationships. It was set more of the groundwork, especially with the first few minutes of the film where Tony has that nightmare vision about Thanos coming, and then we get to see everyone else's visions, like when Wanda gets in everyone's head. That was all great. It was setting up future other films, and it was also setting up Infinity War and Endgame. I like that it had the same Avengers charm as the first one film. Like, everyone got their shine, everyone got their all the screen time that they needed, and the action sequences were crazy. They weren't as good as the first film, but they were still crazy. The Hulk Buster scene is still one of the best scenes in any of the Marvel films, and that final battle, woo, it was just so good. But the problem that I have with this movie is that it's too much Whedon. If you guys saw my ranking of all the DC movies, and when I was talking about Justice League, I said that Whedon ruined the entire Justice League movie. and then we need the Snyder cut. But Whedon did a little bit too much. He was trying to cram in too much. It kind of had the same feeling as the Iron Man films, where you had the director who wanted to do his story and make the movie that he wanted to, but then you had the studio side who wanted to cram all these things in, and it just becomes this big old glob. It didn't ruin the movie, but at the same time, it just felt kind of like nothing really happened, and there was no, like, nothing really over the top, or it just kind of felt it was all smushed together. Like, it made no sense. And Ultron, I really do like him as a villain, but the lack of screen time and his whole plan and just everything, I don't know, just something was missing about him from his comic book accurateness. But it didn't ruin the film for me. I really do enjoy this scene. I really do enjoy this movie. And I just love how the ending was, and how it's just setting up things future for Phase 3. Coming up at number 19 is Captain Marvel. Now, a lot of people say this is the most diverse film in the entire series, and I gave it a little bit nice. I'm really sad, and I'm really disappointed that this could not be somewhere in the top 15 or in the top 10. But this movie, for me, I do enjoy this movie, but at the same time, I don't like it. You know, it's not a good film, it's not a bad film, but it's an okay film for me. I like Brie Larson's acting. I think she's an okay Captain Marvel. She just hasn't met her full potential yet. And when I say that, I'm not talking about power-wise. I'm just talking about whenever she's on screen, she either has the same face or she puts on the same emotion. And there's nothing bad against that. Maybe that's just how she's written in these films, and that's okay. Just Brie needs to do something. I saw her in Just Mercy, and she did a phenomenal job in that movie. So I want to see if she could bring something like that to the Captain Marvel role. I like that it had a 90s theme, and having, like, it was poking fun at all the Easter eggs, like when she's looking up the bar in the computer lab room. That was just funny, and how it's all loading. When they're all waiting to hear the recording on the farm, and they're like, "What's taking so long?" And Nick's like, "It's loading." And then that Skrull's just shaking his head like... That stuff is funny. And then I love that they introduced Goose the cat as a Flurkin. That was really cool. And his reveal throughout half the film, you're like, oh, is he really a cat or is he a Flurkin? And then when he eats the Tesseract, it was really funny. The only problems I have with this film are the twist and the young Nick Fury. Okay, I'll talk about the young Nick Fury. Young Nick Fury, I love that Sam Jackson did it different. What's the word I'm looking for? He did a different version of Nick Fury than we've seen in the other films. And that's okay. It's just... It's hard to look at this Nick Fury and then go and watch Winter Soldier, and he says, "Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye." And that whole... The big reveal of how he lost his eye, Goose the cat, it's played off for laughs, and it just makes that scene in Winter Soldier just less emotional and less intense than it was said. And for me, that's just really bad. I don't know why Feige let that slip, but it is what it is, you guys. And the twist where the Skrulls turned out to be good, and then the Kree were actually the villains, didn't really work out for me, because now they're saying they're going to do Secret Invasions for Captain Marvel 2 or another Avengers film, and I'm just like, how can you do that now? And now they're saying, oh, there are some Skrulls that are good, and then there's some Skrulls that are bad. So for me, that just doesn't really work. So I'm kind of iffy on this movie, but I'll just wait and see how Marvel takes it in the future. Coming up at number 18 is The Incredible Hulk. Now, a lot of people are going to say, how is this number 18? How did it beat all the other films? Look, guys, I love The Incredible Hulk. It was the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if there's one thing that this movie does good, it has great action sequences. That whole action sequence at the college when they're fighting him, really, really outstanding. I loved Edward Norton's acting as the Hulk. Not really as Bruce Banner, but as the Hulk. He did really good job. It set the groundwork for Everett Ross, for the future other films, and especially Mark Ruffalo's turn as the Hulk in the first Avengers film. The final battle was crazy. Seeing Abomination and the Hulk take on Harlem, it was crazy and it was insane. You got to hear Hulk speak for the first time, delivering that iconic line, Hulk smash. You get to see them both ripping each other and throwing punches at you. You see Thor do the thunderclap. It was so amazing. Now, like I said before, the only thing that I have against this movie is it has the Phase 1 villain, where he has the same powers as the superhero, and it's just like, really? Like, this is what we're going at? But other than that, that doesn't ruin the movie for me. Coming up number 17 is Iron Man 3. Now, people say this is the second best Iron Man movie. The first one is obviously the best. I kind of go back and forth. I like the first one. I like the third one the most. if there's one thing that this movie does really well, RDJ's performance. He did great. In the first few films that he was in, he did great. In this one, he elevates that. I liked how he went. I liked the whole story where it's not the machine in the man, it's the man who's in the machine. And you get to see Tony build some of these crazy gadgets, especially in the second act, as he goes to the Mandarin's mansion. That was all cool. I loved all the suits that came out at the final battle. That was all insane. That was all a build-up. At the very beginning of the film where he said he built over 42 suits, and then you get to see all of them in action. That was crazy. The story, really well done. I liked how it tied into Tony's past and how he's trying to redeem himself a little bit more. The only thing I have against this movie, you guys, is the twist, where it turns out the Mandarin is just played as an actor, and it's really Aldrich Killian who's the Mandarin. That doesn't really all well, and I'm glad that Marvel is retconning that, and they're going to do that. They're going to make the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is going to be one of the first Phase 4 movies in Marvel Phase 4. But yeah, that's the only thing that has to ruin against this movie. But other than that, I really liked all the stuff with Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, Rhodey, all of them returning. They did a phenomenal job. And yeah, all the things with Harley as well, that stuff was good as well. I really do enjoy this film, even though we had that terrible Mandarin twist. Coming up, number 16 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, I like that they introduced this as a period piece where it was set in World War II. I loved all the stuff with Steve and Peggy. That stuff was all good. It was setting up everything for their relationships in Civil War, and, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. It follows all through every single movie that Cap is in. I love that it sounds, of course, every groundwork for, with Bucky's death, setting up his return in Winter Soldier. How it set everything in with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra returning in Winter Soldier. And all the fun Easter eggs, the comic that shows up in the film is the first comic that Cap ever introduced him, where he's punching Hitler. The only thing that ruins this movie for you guys to say it together is the Phase 1 villain, where they have the same powers, and they basically just want to take over the world, you guys. It doesn't work for me. Another thing, that World War II montage where Cap is where he's in his first suit, and he's doing a bunch of promotional art, that stuff doesn't really work for me, you guys. Coming up, number 15 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I really do like this film, but the only thing that this film doesn't do well for me is the first one was great. I love the very first Guardians film. And it's trying to be the same film that it was before, and it really didn't do much what a sequel should do for me, in my opinion. That doesn't ruin the movie at all. I still really love this movie. And Peter Quill, in my opinion, has the most devastating storyline in any of the Marvel movies. He's lost his mother. He's lost his father. Actually, no, he's lost his mother and didn't get to hold her hand and say goodbye to him. He had to watch her die. He killed his father after learning that he killed his mother. He had to sacrifice the love of his life, but finds out that the love of his life, was killed by her own father. For me, that just stuff is heartbreaking, and I feel like people give Peter Quill a very hard time in these films, and for that just makes me love the character even more. But in this film, guys, they introduce Ego, the living planet, which turns out to be his father. I loved all the relationships between him and Ego. I love that they dive deeper into all the relationships with Rocket Raccoon and Yondu, Gamora and Nebula, their sisterhood, Drax and Mantis. All that stuff was really, really good. The only thing that doesn't work from this movie is the villains, which have Aisha and the Ravagers. I really did not really like them. Ego was really good. Nothing against Ego. He did really good. Kurt Russell did a phenomenal job as Ego, the living planet. But just the Ravagers and the Sovereign and Aisha and all her people, that stuff just didn't really work out for me. Coming up at number 14 is AntMan. Now, before other films, this was the funniest film in the Marvel in the Marvel movies. And I like that this movie is sort of a heist film. You know, it's about a story about a thief who breaks into a house, steals an Ant-Man suit, and doesn't realize that he's about to become a superhero. But throughout the entire film, they're setting up different heists, like, they gotta go steal this gadget to do the job. And then the whole film at the very end is a big heist to steal the yellow jacket and destroy the suit. That was all really good. The visuals, before Doctor Strange or in any of the other Marvel movies, this had the greatest visuals in any of the Marvel movies. And I like that it was finding its tone with, its comedic, especially with Luis and all the other thieves and stuff. All that stuff is really, really good. It's all really, really funny. And I think it really stands out for, I think for that tone, all the comedic tone, it really makes the Ant-Man movie stand out on a bigger scale than just, you know, the typical Marvel other movies. And the only thing I have a problem with this movie is that it's not the villain this time, you guys. See, a lot of people thought, oh, it's going to be the villain this time. It's going to be the villain. I have nothing against the villain. Yellow Jacket's pretty cool. It's that it felt like Iron Man. It felt like the first Iron Man film. And I'll let you guys connect the dots there and there. But that's the only thing I have against this movie. And speaking of Iron Man, we come in number 13, the first Iron Man film. Now, people are going to be like, say what? Why is this number 13? For the first film to be introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it had a great start, great story where you have the first 5 minutes are great, and then it gives you a big cliffhanger. It moves to the title card, and it's like 2 weeks earlier, or 2 days earlier. Then you can see how everything's set up with Iron Man, how RDJ performed him, and it kind of felt like RDJ, you know, was meant for this role. You know, he was going through a tough time, and then, you know, he got back into filmmaking and acting and stuff, and he did a great job. It had great action sequences. I love the second act where he's in I think it was it Iraq or Syria or something? He went back, Afghanistan, sorry. He went back to Afghanistan, killed all them terrorists. It was crazy. I love that action scene where he blows up the tank. Good work. And where he's escaping the jets and stuff. That stuff is phenomenal. And it was setting up things for phase 2 and phase 3. And also that ending with Nick Fury showing up and saying you're the only superhero in the whole world, you just don't know it. I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. That's great! And the only thing I have against this movie is the villain where, you know, he has the same powers or the same motive as Iron Man did. So you guys, that's going to wrap it up for the part 1 of ranking all 23 films in the Marvel Universe, you guys. We ended with Iron Man. Part 2, we're going to start with number 12, you guys. I almost said what we're going to do. But I hope you guys did enjoy this part 1 of the part 2 ranking. Leave your comment section down below what all your rankings are, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye! And remember, always imagine bigger.